you with us? Is anybody with me?
I think we all muted.
Why?
And hey there, hi there, ho there, and a gracious good Saturday morning to you. Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast, where we bring you the joy and excitement of UofL women's athletics. Certainly a lot of great things going on this week to talk about. Sorry about the hiatus last week. We had various sundry and things going on with the crew here, but we are back now. 4 strong this week. Daryl out, and I'm trying to remember what she was doing this week where she couldn't join us. I think she had a birthday celebration with somebody or something. Maybe she's challenging Buddy the Bat to a hot dog eating contest. How about that? That could be interesting, especially to see Buddy eat hot dogs. That would be fun. But we got Case, we've got Jared, we've got Jeff and myself, Paulie, here in the house for you today. We're going to get you through this next hour and talk about some of the things that are going on in the world of U of L women's athletics. And we'll step out of the box and get into a little bit of Olympic stuff as well, covering some of the former Cardinal stars and some of the things that we've been watching on the Olympics and what we think of them. So as we'd like to start it out here recently, we've been just kind of catching up with each other, with you all as well, to kind of see what's going on in our lives. Jeff and I were talking a little bit earlier about some of the things that were going on with this new OBS Ninja that we're a part of now on our broadcast. So, Jeff, how is it working out for you so far as being one of the two technicians on this bold new venture for podcasting?
Seems like it's doing pretty well. I feel like I'm getting pretty good audio streams from everybody. Actually, a little better quality, which was not even necessarily part of the goal of this, but I think we're getting a little better quality out of the actual audio. And what Case and I do get is we get separate audio streams from each person participating, so we can balance volumes better, which is helpful. So hopefully our volume balance will be a little better sorted out. I'm sharing some volleyball on this screen for us right now, which unfortunately our viewers and listeners won't be able to see, but yeah. So it lets us keep up on things.
That was perhaps the first thing I noticed with this new setup as I was watching volleyball here on the podcast. And so that's really cool. It's a neat feature for us here to be able to kind of see.
And we will be able to use that, hopefully, to be able to take, like, if we have highlight videos or something from a U of A game, we should be able to take them and much more easily get them into the actual YouTube broadcast and be able to make use of them that way. That's always been a challenge, to sorting out the audio and so that you all could see the video while it's playing on the broadcast has always been challenging, but I think we can do it pretty easily this way. That will be experimentation for the future. So
great. We're going to have now a nonstop hour of Jared selfies at various venues. Yeah. Wonderful. Okay. Make sure you've got Katie in the background. That's all I ask, okay?
Yeah.
I got to get her to some games this year.
Speaking of Mr. Jared Anderson here, he's in the house with us as well today, and you had a busy week taking photography shots from what I could tell on the social media aspects of things, and also been watching perhaps a bit of television, Jared, maybe with the Olympics. I don't know. Kind of fill us in on that.
Yeah, it's been busy photography related, and even throughout the rest of the weekend and a few days next week, I stay pretty busy, and then I go home, and at least being able to watch the Olympics while I'm kind of working on the photos and staying up late watching games and getting up early watching games, and sleeping very minimal, getting up early to watch the second half of women's soccer this morning, and I'll be staying up late to watch whatever's on tonight. But yeah, the Olympics is always an exciting time for me, and it's one thing that I don't mind losing a little bit of sleep over.
And I've got to wonder, who is winning the battle of the remote in your condo? Is it Kate, T, or you?
So I was nice and went out, bought another HDMI cable, so hooked up the second cable box to the TV in the bedroom. So she's able to enjoy her Big Brother and Bachelorette shows and all the different reality TV while I'm enjoying some live sports in the living room.
Which is also kind of reality TV, you know.
It is indeed, yeah.
Just less staged and less scripted.
For sure.
Jared was also a little bit prolific about a stinky neighbor, so we won't get into too much detail on that. But have you ever heard of air fresheners, Jared? They work wonders. No.
A little beyond air freshener control at this point.
I would certainly hope that works out okay for you. And the old fire drill alarm at 2 a.m. consecutive nights might drive anybody out of anywhere. Okay. Also, Case in the house with us today. Case, fortunately, has been able to jump in here and do some good things for us this week in my kind of absence from things. I'll get into my dilemma in a little bit here, but Case, what else is going on with you? A great article today you wrote up today here about some Cardinals getting ready to play some hoops.
Yeah, it was. I put in our text chat yesterday. First off, I'll just say we're happy to have you back, Paul. Not least because it's hard to write on a random weekday during the summer, and I applaud you all that normally do it.
It's above your pay grade, I understand.
Yeah. But yeah, today I put in our text message yesterday that Jared stole my article idea by writing about Peyton Verhulst, and shortly after, the USA announced their 3-on-3 roster for the upcoming FIBA championships. So we'll get into that a little bit later. But yeah, I wrote about that, and then some awards for an incoming volleyball freshman, and a little bit of an update on the Olympics. As I think almost all of the sports of interest are underway. We've got women's basketball still set to begin, but once that happens, we'll kind of have all of the UofL based sports, even if not UofL athletes, the ones that we normally cover, will be underway.
Certainly. So, and make sure and catch Case's article today at cardinalcouple.com, where he does catch you up on those things. And in fact, just go back and read the whole week in review, because the guys and Daryl really stepped up here and took it to the forefront as far as keeping the site current and active and updated with the stuff we love to read about. Certainly, and want to get this out of the way first. I really appreciate the way that you guys jumped in and kind of took control of the boat and said, we're going this way. And Paulie, you just kind of take it easy here and relax a little bit. We'll take care of it for you. No worries. A big thanks to you all, and Daryl as well, for kind of jumping in and taking over. That's what a team does. One player's out, the others step in and make plays happen. So as far as my own situation, I'm not going to belabor you with a lot of great, long, and boring details on what's been going on with me. Basically, had some health concerns that necessitated a trip to the emergency room, and also a 5-night stay in the hospital, where they've been checking some kidney functions and some other things going on with me. I'm not out of the woods yet. The good thing is I don't feel bad. I'm not really too messed up on things, except for one of the medications they've got me on right now make me very drowsy. So if you hear snoring later on in the broadcast, that's not a new sound effect that Jeff has come up with. It will be me asleep on air with you.
If you hear snoring, it just means that I'm slow on the trigger, because I can mute you now without muting everyone else.
It's a sad thing to give Jeff this much power. It really is. I just can't foresee what's going to happen in the next.
But also, let's Case do it for the podcast replay too. So
well, the other nice thing is that, unlike Skype, we can not only mute you ourselves, but we can unmute you ourselves.
That's
which
true.
is not a power that Skype allowed us. Skype was like, yeah, you can mute somebody, and then they have to figure out how to unmute or notice that you muted them, which was always an adventure.
What used to be a simple democracy here at the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast has now turned into a two-pronged dictatorship, much in the way of pre-Fidel Castro Cuba. So if the boys say it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And if they don't want it to happen, they're going to be able to stop us, Jared. So we're going to have to perhaps get the gorillas involved and do a revolt here later on in the show. And we'll see what happens. It's a lot of fun right now, having this new experience because it is great. I really like what it is. But just to sum up on me, I want to thank everybody for the inquiries on how I was doing, how I was feeling, things that were going on with me. I can tell you that if you want to go to get some rest, do not go to the hospital because I felt like I was a passenger in a clown car and had no control on who was riding with me and where I got to stop. You do not get rest in the hospital. Fortunately, I've been out a few days now and kind of catching back up on the important essentials like sleep and nutrition and also rest. So we're going to get through this thing. We're going to be fine with it. But even if I should somehow fall back into the morass of being unable to do things again, you can rest assured you got 4 very, very strong and capable candidates here to take over the website and the podcast and do an excellent, top-notch job on it, guys. So once again, I do want to thank you all, each and every one of you, for saying, okay, Polly, you're on the bench for a while. We're going to play.
Injured reserve.
Absolutely. I was out on the IR. Fortunately, they turned that Labrador Jared loose on the site, and he ran havoc over it. So, good work, everybody. Appreciate that very much, and also the kind thoughts from you, the readers and listeners. So, we going on with it. Cardinal couple cannot be set back. Time of the show where we get into a little scheduling and Twitter information. In case normally handles that first, and will do so today, I'm sure, with great aplomb and the usual professionalism he shows on that aspect of our show. So, take it away, pal.
Well, I do my best. As for the schedule, it's still pretty empty. We're going to turn over here in just 8 days. We'll turn over into August, and then there will start to be things on the calendar. If I do a look ahead, we'll see. I will not have anything to talk about for scheduling the following week either. But the 14th is when we're set to get some soccer underway. I think still waiting to see if women's soccer is going to have any exhibition matches before that. Still none listed on the calendar, but we will see. I'm not going to attempt to run down the Olympic schedule. That's way outside my scope here. We could spend the whole show talking about it, but if you are looking for the Olympic schedule and you can only find something that is in local time, you can't find something in your time. If you're in Eastern time zone, it's pretty easy. Japan is 13 hours ahead, so it would be a little bit easier if it was Eastern Standard Time and we were just 12 hours, but you take what you can get. So
just to beware by being 13 hours ahead, they're actually tomorrow.
Right. Yeah. And most of those games are going to happen. Games and events are going to happen in the middle of the night. I believe NBC and Peacock are airing all of those live, but then a lot of the highlight matches and events, those will also be on replay. So if you just check your NBC local listings for when they're playing what, you'll definitely be able to keep up. Like I mentioned a little bit earlier, women's basketball should get underway soon. Softball and soccer all continuing with their group play, and the first day of field hockey matches was overnight and into this morning. So we'll talk a little bit about that later too. As for Twitter, I tweet is at best case scenario. That's actually spelled out in the article today. I tweet out the podcast link every week after it's uploaded. So if you want to follow me for one thing and one thing only, it can be that, and I won't begrudge you. Paulie tweets is at Cardinal Couple. Jeff is at Card Couple Radio and at Jeff McAdams. Jared is at Mr. Anderson Jared, and Daryl is at Daryl Faust 4. All of those I think are links on the side of the site as well, and you can just go to the right side of the site for the Twitter list of all of the UofL women's athletics to keep up with all of those. So there it is, scheduling and Twitter.
Very good. And I also want to say thank you and job well done to you, Case, on giving us a clear and definitive explanation on how people can listen to the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast. Mm-hmm. If you take a look at today's article, Case has outlined the ways to listen to the show live or delayed if you want to, and also has a great link here of what is this 9 different ways to listen to us. That's probably 8 more than most of you care about. But yeah, anywhere from the Cardinal Couple YouTube link all the way down to Spotify. Some in here I've never even heard of before, but Google Podcasts is certainly available. Apple Podcasts, Anchor FM. Boy, I'm telling you, just a proliferance of things that you can catch up with us. Okay, so a good job on that there, but we need to find a way to get this over on the right-hand side of the site somehow. I'll endeavor to work on that a little bit.
Yeah,
The
one
Cardinal
I didn't
Couple-
include. I was
the
just going to say
Cardinal Couple,
one.
the Cardinal Couple YouTube link will take you to the Cardinal Couple channel on YouTube, but then the actual live stream should pop up. I usually try to get the live stream created and set up about an hour beforehand. So anytime in the hour before we go live, you should be able to go there and find the actual stream entry and pull it up, and it should go live when we go live. So
And certain, go ahead, Case.
I do know that there are a couple of other podcast players that aren't included in this. These are just the ones that Anchor shows us directly. You can get those. You can get Cardinal Couple on whatever podcast player you want, either by searching it. It should pop up, or if you go to the Anchor site, then you can directly copy the RSS feed. If you're a podcast listener, you'll probably understand that a little bit more than Polly, but you can then take that RSS feed and input it right into your podcast player and get every show. I didn't put that in here just because I didn't want it to be confusing, because the RSS feed is not going to take you to something that will play the show in your browser.
So certainly very, very interesting stuff on ways to follow us, because and this all came up a couple of days ago, really, when I was getting some inquiries on, well, what radio station are you guys on anymore? I can't pick you up. And so had to kind of go through the lengthy explanation of we are now podcasting and not on a particular radio station with a 4-letter call letter kind of sequence or a designated spot on an FM or AM dial, that we were no longer doing straight radio broadcast, local airwaves and such, but doing a podcast, and then trying to explain the concept of podcast to a couple of people was way above my pay grade, but was able to kind of basically get them to the fact where, hey, if you go to the Cardinal Couple YouTube page, that will solve a lot of your ills. But it's certainly something where we hope that you enjoy all the things that we've tried to do here to upgrade things as far as the ways that you can listen to us, either live or remote, and certainly the aspect of where you can have a variety of options. All good stuff right there. And special thanks to Jeff and Case for working so hard on the Video Ninja and our new way of getting to you. I like it, guys. I think we're doing pretty good with this here.
Seems to be working well so far. So we'll see. We'll see how it holds up.
But let's go ahead and move on into the usual meat and bones of the show, discussing the joy and excitement of UofL women's athletics. And I think we could start to that with some of the latest news that we've just had come down the pike to us about USA U23 3x3 team announced, and not one but 2 University of Louisville women's basketball student athletes are on this USA U23 3x3 team. We've certainly heard of the very talented Haley Van Lith, sophomore guard for the Cards. She is on this 3x3 U23 Nations League team, and a transfer into the Cards, the very talented Emily Inksler, will also be on this 3x3 court to help Team USA to another hopeful championship. 2 Cardinals that we're certainly looking forward to seeing, not only in the regular Cardinal women's basketball season, I think, but also as they go to pursue their 3x3 title championship here, playing with some pretty good girls. But Case had the write-up on this today a little bit, so kind of take us into this a little bit here, Case. We got two very, very good Cardinals playing with two very, very other good players in a very competitive league.
Yeah, and like you mentioned just now, there's only 4 players on this roster, so very impressive for Louisville to pick up 2 of those spots. Haley Van Lith and Emily Ingsler both, as I wrote in the article today, very familiar with the 3v3 format. They were both in the 2018 USA U18 Championship. Van Lith's team won that championship, defeating one of their other teammates, Kylie Watson, and her team in the finals. Ingsler was in that championship as well. She also competed in 2017. She was in the 2018 U18 national team trials. Haley Van Lith has won a gold medal with the USA at the 2019 FIBA U18 World Cup, and also at the 2018 Youth Olympics. She's won some 5-on-5 gold medals with Team USA. Van Lith is almost definitely a future women's basketball World Cup player and Olympian for USA basketball. She's very familiar to the team, very familiar to all the coaches, and is likely to light up the college court this year, I would think. Kylie Watson and Madison Hayes, the other 2 players. Madison Hayes, they're going to be pretty familiar with. She's at NC State, so they would have played her last year. They'll play her again this year. No longer teammates. We'll see if they play Kylie Watson in the regular, well, not in the regular season, but in the postseason. If they have the opportunity to take on Oregon, that would be interesting. The event is August 2nd through 4th, so it's a very quick turnaround. They're going to leave next Thursday to go to Philly for training camp for a couple of days before they get to that event. So this is going to be kind of a whirlwind for these players and for all the teams that are competing in this. It's just quick camp, quick event, and turn around and come back to school for what will ultimately be like the start of classes and fall camp for basketball. So very busy for them.
A great honor indeed for both these student athletes. And Jared, let's just kind of take a look at this in the scheme of things. These 2 participating in a very, very challenging and competitive event, that's got to bode well, I think, for the Louisville women's basketball squad to have 2 players who we think will have an impact on the 2021 Cardinal team getting some valuable preseason experience here in this type of venue.
Oh yeah, with 3v3, you're going to see a lot more kind of like the one-on-one matchups. You're going to see a lot more man-to-man defense. So from a defensive standpoint, it really forces you to better your man-on-man kind of like defense, which you'll see will run kind of a mix of man defense versus kind of different zones, switching it up, different looks throughout the season against our opponents. So this is a nice opportunity both for Haley and Emily to kind of up that, but also it gives you a lot more one-on-one opportunities offensively where you're able to maybe juke a player, get around them, kind of work on the drive a little bit more. So just you kind of get both aspects of that, but also just being able to consistently run up and down, back and forth. You're not going to have as much downtime, slow time, which in the past you've seen where UofL really likes to hustle up and down the court, keep things moving. So it's just kind of like that extra early training before the season starts.
And certainly great experience for them as well on this. And we had also, Jeff, this 3x3 concept has really picked up so much in the last couple of years, it seems. But earlier this year, we had 4 Cardinals participating in some 3-on-3 as well with Peyton Verhulst. Also, we had Casa Robinson was out there doing some things, Keanu Smith, as well as the very talented Elizabeth Dixon. It seems to be a trendy thing, but the Cards are getting some great experience here in this, aren't they?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I was actually thinking about that. It almost feels like, Jeff Wall's style of play that he has built here at UofL translates really well to 3x3 basketball. It's high paced, it's quick, it's aggressive, and in your face sort of play. Just kind of the style that 3v3 seems to bring about, and I think that just is a good translation from what UofL plays in general We talk about attack Yorkies and all of that. So it's interesting that it seems like UofL players in particular seem to be having a lot of success in this in this transition into the 3v3 world. We talked about 3-on-3 being in the Olympics. This is the first time it's been in the Olympics as well. So that's a neat addition of this style of play for basketball to be able to be in the Olympics for the first time as well. It's pretty cool.
I think one of the other things that's important for the reasons that Jeff Walz is willing to go with this, not only his personal style, but basketball in general, and women's basketball specifically, is moving very rapidly towards what you would consider positionless basketball. And the 3v3 setup really helps players develop those skills. Players that are a little bit larger getting more ball handling work and one-on-one opportunities and some shooting opportunities. So I think that it really builds out the opportunity for Louisville to play, small ball with 4 guards, or to play just very fast-paced and very fluid offenses with a more traditional lineup, but allowing that traditional lineup to do many different things. I think you saw that with Liz Dixon getting the opportunity to be part of that 3v3 team. Having a center play in 3v3 is not something that you necessarily need. It can be helpful, but it's not necessarily required. And so it really allowed, I think, in that tournament in particular, Liz to expand her skill set, and that's definitely beneficial for UofL going forward.
I've got to agree with you. And Jared, Liz Dixon could be a very essential part of this Cardinal 21-22 team, I think, with the experience she had earlier this summer and all, but the fact that she and Olivia Cochran are going to be such a strong force inside for the Cardinals. Let's just take that a little bit further. But Liz is due to have a breakout season for us, in my opinion.
Yeah, we've seen quite a few hints of greatness from her throughout her time. And a lot of that has just been being able to develop her confidence as well as awareness of where the basket is around her at all times. And now that she's been able to kind of build that confidence, she's not afraid to take a short jumper instead of working with just layups, is kind of what we saw in her first year. She's knocking down some of those jumpers, so it does force defenses to have to kind of respect that shot now. But between that and Olivia Cochran, who's just so agile and able to weave through multiple defenders and break out of that double team, it's going to be so difficult for defenses to be able to go up against either of them just with their presence and what they're able to do down low. And it's going to open up opportunities for your guards kind of on the outside, maybe get the open look, open three, and hopefully knock that down.
And then certainly if anything should happen to those two, there's a young lady by the name of Romani Parker who came on pretty strong for the Cards at the end of the year. And also we can't forget an Olympic basketball player right now. That's right. You're thinking, gosh, who do we have that is on the Olympics right now? Well, take a look at Marissa Russell. She's out there playing for the Canadian team in the Olympics. That should be fun. I don't know if she's one of the main kegs on that team, but I think she'll definitely get some experience. But let's kind of go from half court to full court, as we've got Peyton Verhulst doing some great things right now as she gets ready to start her career at the University of Louisville. She is on the USA Women's Basketball U19 World Cup team, as they will be competing in Hungary. Not that they'll be hungry, but they'll be in Hungary to be playing such schools as other nations like Italy, Australia, and Egypt for preliminary play. And then getting into that, Jared, talk a little bit about what a great honor this is to have Verhulst on this team.
Yeah, it's kind of that extra, kind of those few extra reps before you transition over to UofL, but you're going to be going up against a lot of players that kind of have that collegiate experience. I think if I read it correctly, Caitlin Clark from Iowa, who was one of the running for freshman of the year for a while there, is on that same team. So you are going up against some of the greatest young players in the NCAA right now for women's basketball, being able to work alongside them, train, get to know the collegiate game just a little bit better. It looks like UofL's got Peyton listed officially as 6'1", so uh, besides being able to play that guard role really well with that height, we may see her kind of post up down low a little bit here and there, being only a couple inches shorter than Olivia Cochran. So maybe this 3v3 will help her get one more chance to develop the rebounding and kind of her post presence as well.
Let's take a look at this a little more in depth, Jeff. Peyton Verhulst has had such a busy summer doing
Yeah.
various and sundry activities and has not even officially, played her first game for Louisville women's basketball yet, but she's all over the place. This has got to be something that's not only pleasing for Cardinal fans to see, but certainly an indicative sign of what she might be able to do here at Louisville.
Yeah, and she's certainly keeping busy. She's keeping busy doing a lot of really great basketball opportunities and experiences and training situations, which is really great and to have available in the off season. I think I saw that she has moved in on campus, so she is actually living on campus at this
When
point.
did she have time to do that?
Right.
Cow.
But with that, and then she's like jetting all over the place to do all these various opportunities, which is fantastic. It's great. So hopefully she's going to be coming in here with a lot of really great experience, hit the ground running, adjust to the level of the college game, which is always something that we talk about with new players coming in at any level. At any jump in level, they have to adjust to that. So hopefully she's getting a little bit of a head start on that with playing some of these great opportunities. The 3v3 that she did earlier, and now the World Cup situation. It can only help. So.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Just the wealth of experience you pick up, not only playing with different players from different squads and against different nations, but the travel that's involved with it. I mean, can you imagine if you were 18? Can you imagine yourself being in Hungary? I couldn't have. No.
And I just went out to Portland last week, and it was a hassle because of all, still have the COVID, wearing a mask and all the in airports and on the airplanes and everything, which I totally get. I'm totally supportive of it, but it's just a hassle,
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I mean, yeah, you become accustomed to a certain way of life, and then all of a sudden they say, okay, we're gonna raise a little bit of the freedom that you have now. You don't have to wear a mask here and there. You don't have to do that. But then all of a sudden, boom, here comes the Delta variant. They turn it right back around and say, well, you better mask up if you're going to do this. So it does make you, I think, worry a little bit, Case, about the general health, well-being, and safety of the student athlete in different venues and in different areas of our nation and world.
Yeah, I think that obviously everything that everybody does at this stage is kind of a risk. We're trying to mitigate that as best as possible with all kinds of various measures. But it doesn't seem likely that the U.S. National organizations for Olympics, for national teams like USA Basketball, stuff like that, they're not going to shirk on any responsibilities that they have to keep their athletes as healthy as possible, not just for humanitarian reasons of being a good host to your athletes and a good arbiter of their health, but also for competitive reasons. I mean, it's in their best interest for the players that they've selected, who they believe are the best, to stay healthy and be available. So while there's risks with traveling all over the place and playing all these people from different countries, I think that organizers at this stage feel that they have a handle on things to keep players and participants as safe as possible, or they would hopefully not continue having such events. So
you certainly just hope and certainly pray for their safety and well-being here. The fact that they are able to maintain their health yet still compete in the fun and excitement of playing in international events. So let's hope that everybody stays well. Let's hope that nothing seriously happens, because unfortunately we've seen some sad things happen to former Cardinal athletics because of the virus. But even Asia Dewar, who's now coming back and making her appearance on convenience store doors. How about
Yeah,
that?
I saw that the other day.
So if you go in and if you get the slushy, you can get Asia's picture for 99 cents extra. No, hopefully all well with her as she comes out of a very rough period in her life and transition. But let's just kind of take a before we jump into we'll leave basketball here in just a second. Although it's hard for me to do that, we'll leave in just a second here. But let's first of all let's talk a little bit about the women's basketball team that's coming back. Kind of an early look at what's going on here. The Cards obviously lost a very good player in Dana Evans to the WNBA. They also had a part-time starter for the last couple of years, and Elizabeth Balagoon decided that she wanted to try her fortunes elsewhere, albeit still in the ACC down at Duke. So basically, you might say there were two starting roles that will be available now for a wealth of Cardinal student athletes in women's basketball, but certainly I think a lot of players are going to be stepping up and saying, "Hey, coach, I want that spot." Let's talk about that a little bit. The competition that's going to be going on here in the preseason, just to see who's getting the playing time and such, is going to be, I think, unrivaled in what we've seen in women's basketball history, Jared.
Yeah, there's just so much talent on the roster, but we see a lot of talent every year. It's going to be a battle down to probably the first few games of the season. You'll see that Coach Walls will probably narrow it down to a smaller rotation than the full roster by then, but you're still going to see several players kind of the mix and match, see who meshes well together on the court, see who is comfortable out there. And it's really going to come down to who he's throwing out there towards the end of games in a tight game that we're going to have a better understanding who he's going to want as his starting five in the future. But there's just so many players to choose from. And it's ranging from kind of our first year members up to our veteran members. But it also allows the opportunity to make a deep run in the postseason with the ACC tournament always being back to back to back days, and then the NCAA tournament always being another one of those where it can really wear you down. So just being able to have 2-3 rosters, starting fives worth of players that you'd be comfortable throwing out there is quite nice. So I'm happy with the roster we have this year, and I'm looking forward to what we're going to do.
Such a wealth of talent. But and one of the questions I get occasionally when people come up to me and ask me, "Hey, what's women's basketball going to look like this year? You know, who's going to replace Dana? Who are going to be the stars?" Let's just take a quick look at some of the players we think that may be the essentials and the keys in this year's squad. I think you got to start pretty much with Haley Van Lith. So much will be expected out of her for her sophomore season. I think she's one that you can kind of put a check mark by as a definite starter, seeing a lot of minutes per game. After that, the picture maybe gets a little more cloudy than that. There's some other good names out there. Kiana Smith, for example, Liz Dixon, Olivia Cochran, some of the others that are coming into the program too. Let's just kind of do a round, quick around the table on that case. Some of the players that you expect, besides maybe Van Lith, that will be a strong part of the Cardinal team this year.
Yeah, I guess I'll go ahead and make my early prediction for starting lineup. And that would kind of tell you who I think is going to be an impact player. So, like you said, Haley Van Lith, I think will start. I think we'll go with a 3-2 to start the season, and then we'll see where we go from there. As far as 3 guards, 2 forwards, more of a traditional lineup. See how that plays. So I've got Haley Van Lith, Casa Robinson, and Kiana Smith as the starting guards, and then I think Emily Ingsler is going to be a really big impact player. So I think you've got to get her out on the court. Is one of those forward positions. She'll also play really flexible at just 6'1". She plays really strong, but is a little bit shorter, so she's got some speed. And then Olivia Cochran is going to round that out. I know that Liz Dixon has really been working to improve moving into her senior season, but I think that what Cochran proved last year is going to be tough to unseat. I think that they'll definitely split some starts throughout the season, but I think that spot is Cochran's to start the year.
And some interesting insights there for sure. Maybe not the starting five I would have come up with, but certainly one I think would be very viable. Let's just moving on over to you, Jeff. Case is throwing the gauntlet down here with who he thinks it might be. What do you think of what he's saying? And is there any other maybe alterations to that you might put in there?
Man, I this is always an interesting discussion. We have it every year, right? But
Yeah,
it's like put all these names on a dartboard and throw darts at them and just hit five and say, all right, well, there's the five, and you're going to come out with something probably pretty good. I'm going to say Mikasa Robinson. I'm going to say Haley Van Lith. I'm going to say, oh gosh, I don't know. I think probably Olivia Cochran in the middle to start with. Like you said, you kind of, Olivia Cochran versus Elizabeth Dixon, I think is going to be interesting there as the season develops. Kind of like Case, I think Cochran gets it to start with. And I think you got to look at some of the transfers in. You got Emily Inksler coming in and Chelsea Hall coming in from Vanderbilt. I, I don't know all that much about them. Saw Inksler play up at Syracuse, but haven't really seen Chelsea Hall play much. So, the question is how effective are they going to be? How are they going to be able to break that starting lineup? I think there's a chance of it. I don't know, man. Those are the ones I would kind of look at as here's what I think, but if I'm wrong, if I'm right, I'll be surprised. Honestly, if I'm wrong, I will not be surprised.
it is akin to trying to get a drink of water out of a garden hose right now
Yeah.
when trying to do this for sure. But Jared has spent a lot of time around the U of L women's basketball program, like I have, and then I'm sure has some certain insights into what we just might see stepping up and being those Cardinals that we love to talk about, sir.
I think we're all in agreement that Haley Van Lith kind of earned that starting spot last year with what she was able to do, and I believe Olivia Cochran's also earned her starting spot with a lot of just what she was able to show off down low, uh, kind of be a scorer when need be. But I think we may look more at having a couple forwards to start the game, just that traditional route that Case had mentioned, and that Liz Dixon has earned that spot. She's tied for the tallest on the roster, so we may want to look at some of that size, especially depending on who we may be playing. As Jeff Walls has shown, he wants to lean more towards the taller roster. So you've got Liz Dixon and Olivia Cochran both starting there, kind of like your 4 or 5 spots with Haley Van Lith. It's going to be hard to ignore the fact that Kiana Smith was one of your top 3 scorers from last year, and you may want to have another reliable scorer out there to start the season. She's comfortable with the ball in her hands. She's not afraid to pull up, take the shot when you need one. And then you got to look at Mikasa Robinson for your 5th spot. Everything she's done, just being that overall well-rounded player, too tall to qualify for the attack Yorkie position, but just not afraid to lay out, chase after the loose ball, be the hustle player out there, go in and pull down the rebound over somebody that's nearly a foot taller than you. She's well earned her starting spot, and you've got enough other scorers on the court that you don't really need to rely on her to put up 10, 12 points a game. If she can put up 4 or 5 points, that's plenty, just because everything else she's going to do with that stat sheet.
Good observations indeed, and I'll kind of segue us out here and throw my thoughts into it a little bit. I think Van Lith is going to be. I hate the terminology by saying the next Dana Evans. I think she's got her own different attributes and qualities, but I think she is going to be that key out there for the Cards. I think Casa Robinson is so invaluable with the multitude of things she can do. You can't keep her out of this starting lineup, in my opinion, and I think she'll be an integral part of it. I also think Kiana Smith has just been that steady, calming influence that has come in and done such great things since she's been here for Louisville. Certainly, you want to give her that opportunity to continue that this year out on the court. And if she gets on a tear from 3-point range, look out, just go ahead and close the gym and send everybody home and get Kiana's totals later because she's going to shoot your lights out basically and you won't be able to see the rest of the contest. Uh, Emily Inkster, a ball player I really admired at Syracuse. I thought that she was just the embodiment of hard work, dedication, perseverance. She reminded me of Louisville's Sam Fearon, quite honestly, when I watched her play and the
That's high
things she
praise.
did. Yeah, she works hard. Yeah, she's the gritty blue collar. I'm putting on my hard hat. I'm going to work. Let me know when we're done because I'm on the clock right now. Because she's such a hard worker. I think she's going to mesh well with this Cardinal lineup, and I think she will find herself getting some valuable time. As far as the center position, you guys are giving Olivia the nod here. I'm going to go in a little different direction. I'm going to say that Liz Dixon's going to get that start and go in there and do what she can do, but you're going to see some very valuable time out on the court from Cochran. I think Dixon, though, just because of her wealth of experience and the way that she can, at times, take over inside and be the dominant force in there, will end up getting that nod. Certainly, Cochran, a lot of time from the bench coming in. Peyton Verhulst is going to turn a lot of heads and turn them pleasantly, I think, for the things that she can do on the basketball court.
Mhm.
We'll certainly wait to see what happens with that. And then I could spend the rest of the show going into the rest of the lineup, but I'm not going to do it. I just threw my five out there for you.
Yeah.
And we'll see
My
what we
my question is, we've talked about the bigs down there, the Cochran versus Dixon, which is it's just I'll certainly acknowledge a very difficult choice to make between those two. Absolutely. What do you all think on how much time Sydney Shetning gets? Like, it's kind of nice having 6'5" down there,
Absolutely.
right?
Is she redshirting only in volleyball? She's
Only in
playing
volleyball.
basketball
Yeah,
this
she's
year.
playing
Okay.
basketball. Yeah,
I couldn't remember
That's
how
the-
that stood.
that's the word we've gotten on it anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, I I, I think they'll have to get her in, particularly if you're in a situation where, and Louisville will be in this situation at some point this season where you can't play a smaller lineup and you're playing two bigs. If you've got Elizabeth Dixon and Olivia Cochran both in, because you need to match a lineup from another team, and you need to get one of them a breather. I think there's nowhere really to go. But Shetland, I think that
Right.
also you've got Romani Parker up there too. But I think that's the situation where she's going to see the most work.
Yep.
And then obviously early in the season when hopefully Louisville is blowing some teams out and she can get some early onboarding action in low pressure situations.
Right.
Definitely look forward to see what Shetland can do as well. Yes, she's came in with such high accolades in both sports, volleyball and basketball, and
Right.
in the words of a coach who unfortunately is under more hot water than we ever thought he would be right now. Quentin Hillsman once said, "Height is good. I'll take height. I'll play height. You try and beat me." It makes
Yeah.
sense to me.
I,
We could see an all 6 foot and above lineup at some point throughout the season too.
Yeah.
Because you could look at your guard forward section, maybe Kiana Smith, who's listed 6 foot, and Emily Engstler, even though she's listed as a forward, she can also play that guard position at 6'1". Peyton Verhulst, who's a guard, is listed 6'1", and then you kind of have your pick of the draw with your taller players: Sydney Shetland 6'5", Dixon 6'5", Olivia Cochran 6'3", Romani Parker 6'4". So you got a lot to kind of pull from. So if Jeff Wall says, "Okay, let's try this philosophy. I'm throwing my tall players out there, beat me." I mean, we may see some success with that too.
although the real long shot went out here. We talked about Paige Morningstar in volleyball earlier. She also was a high school basketball player. Did pretty darn well in basketball. Is there a chance that she shows up on the basketball pitch? Probably not. But
this merging of sports,
Probably not.
Probably not. But wouldn't it be fun?
You've opened a whole new can of worms here, and we ain't got enough fishing poles to cover them, buddy.
No.
But that did.
I got to show the love for my volleyball peeps, right?
Well, yeah, and you helped me segue perfectly into what we want to talk about next. This is where you get to shine for a few minutes here. We heard some very good things about Paige Morningstar, about some accolades that she received in Pennsylvania with her high school pursuits and accolades up there. So, Jeff, What is this bright morning star we see in the sky now?
Yeah. Paige Morningstar is coming in. She's a senior out of Allegheny High School in Pittsburgh, and she committed verbally to U of L a number of years ago, probably 3 or 4 years ago, and is on campus now, I believe. And the most recent accolade is the 2020-2021 USA Today Pennsylvania Volleyball Athlete of the Year. So not specific to any sport here, right? This is overall Athlete of the Year for the state.
Well, I think it's volleyball, right? It was volleyball.
Oh, it is volleyball. Okay, yeah, you're right.
Volleyball athlete.
It's the Max Prep. The Max Preps one that was not.
That was not okay. Yeah, sorry, misread that. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, she's gotten several of these Athlete of the Year awards already out of Pennsylvania. So again, like I said, she's got some pretty good skills on the basketball floor as well, but has given no indication that she'll be playing basketball at U of L. So I wouldn't expect to see her on the floor, but she is a very good setter in volleyball, and so we'll see how much time she gets in the kind of the quarterback role of the volleyball team. I don't think Tori Dilfer is in any danger of losing her starting role right now.
Which was going to be my next question.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's the obvious question to ask, right? So I don't think she's in any danger of losing that right now. This will be her last go round. So expect her to be in the role and get Paige the opportunity to come in on occasion, get up to game speed at the college level, like we talked about earlier. And yeah, I think she's going to be a lot of fun to watch. So
I think, Jared, this certainly bodes well for the future of U of L volleyball, to know that you're going to have somebody of this magnitude and skill join what is already a very talented and deep volleyball roster.
Oh yeah. Whether she beats out Tori or not for that starting role, and Jeff's gonna know that a lot better than I would. I mean, she's learning under, at this point, I believe what Tori was listed as an All-American, and what she's done in her years at U of L, and just her expertise, and to spend a year training under a fantastic setter for a nationally ranked volleyball program. I mean, it's just going to make you that much better, and you get more of a feel for the players around you, your teammates. A lot of the setter position is going to be understanding those around you, how they're going to move, and where you need to set them up at, because each player is going to have a little bit different of a preference, and Jeff can break that down a lot better than I can. But you'll have one player that may want it way out in front of the net, the other one may want it sitting a little further back. It's just what's going to be best for your outside hitters, and spending a year just learning that is going to be pretty crucial.
And if there is anybody on the U of L campus that's walking around with a 10-foot wide grin right now, it's certainly got to be Heiko Jones and Anna DeBeer, saying that, hey, we still got Tori, but look at what's coming in now.
Right.
Hey, we're still young players here. We've still got a couple years each to go here, and we're going to have these setters, and wow, they got to be really excited.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity for them. They've got several years ahead of them still with the team, and to know that you've got another great setter coming in to continue that is, that provides that continuity. We have, I will call out that we do have a number of setters in our roster, because we also have Rachel DeMarcus, we also have Jamie Vasily, who are both listed as setters. I wouldn't expect to see them getting a whole lot of time, because one of the things that's nice at the college level for setters is to have some height, right? And you got Tori Dilfer at 5'11", Paige Morningstar 6 foot. DeMarcus and Vasily are both shorter players. I think DeMarcus is 5'7". So they're going to struggle a little bit more in that role, having to be on the front row and trying to block. DeMarcus showed in the fall playing up at Boston College that she's capable of doing it, and doing a pretty decent job out there. So if we end up with her in the lineup, then hey, we're in good hands. I don't think it's going to be a problem. But yeah, I would expect to see this to really be between Dilfer and Morningstar, and I think Dilfer will continue to be the predominant setter on the team. there's always that chance also that we run a 6-2, which is always a lot of fun. But I don't know. I don't see that happening.
I think we could sum it up very nicely by saying things are setting up well for Louisville volleyball.
Gosh.
Sorry about
Yeah.
the kids. But as we kind of segue out of that a bit, we have been, at least I know I have been, I'm pretty sure you guys as well have been kind of wrapped on watching some of the things that are going on with the Olympics, which are, of course, underway over in Tokyo, Japan, particularly following some of our favorite Cardinals and some of our favorite sports. A very nice kind of deal going on right now with somebody who I got to know pretty well and really enjoyed watching play field hockey, Aisha McFerrin, who is on the team from, boys, I just had a brain fart. Excuse me,
Ireland.
I wanted to say New Zealand, and I'm sorry about that. No,
The Emerald Isle.
We were talking about New Zealand earlier in soccer, but
Aisha McFerrin, arguably the world's best goalkeeper in field hockey, is certainly getting a chance to show that on a worldwide stage right now with the Irish national team. And hey, they did pretty good today, Jared, huh? They did pretty good, didn't they?
Yeah, they started off their opening match of pool play against South Africa and got the 2-0 win. I'm not sure how much of that, I haven't gotten to see the stats of it, where Aisha McFerrin played in the cage. I don't know if she saw the full match or if she came in and subbed or if she didn't play at all. But
I think she's the only goalkeeper on the roster.
Oh, so we'll go on and
Let's
assume
hope
that she played
saw significant time.
every minute then. Obviously then as your starting keeper there, great news for her to earn the shutout, and being able to get that opening win at the Olympics will certainly take off a lot of that pressure and the nerves that you're going to see at the highest level stage that you're ever going to run into. So great for them. When it comes down to it, they go up against the U.S. in the finals for the gold medal. I hate to break it to Aisha McFerrin, but I am going to be cheering for Team USA in that one.
I'd like to see a scoreless battle on that one. Aisha doing well. Or as Justine Sari said years ago, when you have Aisha McFerrin in goal, it forgives a lot of sins on the field. So there you are. Indeed, it does. So we certainly hope the best for her and hope that she does well. We'd also kind of be remiss in not mentioning that we'll be watching Canadian basketball with a little bit of interest, because we certainly have one of our Cardinals up there in Marissa Russell playing for the Canadians. I think that obviously they're going to have their work cut out against a very strong USA team. And how about the Nigerians? What's going on here? They become the darling of women's basketball in the Olympics, guys. What about this team, Jeff? The Nigerians.
I haven't followed too much. I haven't heard this. I'm out of the loop on this one.
Case, maybe a little bit more of an insight on that?
Yeah, so I was actually looking at the Nigerian roster, and I just closed it officially. Elizabeth Balogun is back on this roster. She was not on their provisional roster. She was on the roster that qualified for the Olympics. But a lot of people were trying to figure out who was going to fill those spots. If
with the Ogunbowales that were, I think, in
the Ogwumikes, Chini and Neneke. Erica is on the roster, but the other two, along with who was the third person? Elizabeth Williams. They didn't win their appeal, so they're not on the official roster. So Nigeria is coming in a little bit more shorthanded than they would have liked. We'll see. It's going to be interesting. They open on Monday, I believe it is, as the internet doesn't want to play games with me anymore. So I can't find it. But I believe, basketball begins on Monday. Nigeria and the USA will play their opening game on the 27th of July. So right out of the gate, we get to see how that's going to go.
We've also had some fun, Jared and I have anyway, and I'm sure you guys have as well, watching Team USA softball out there. We
Yeah.
were trying to make sure that they were doing well, and certainly trying to figure out the difference between Rebecca Lobo and Monica Abbott, and are they the same person? And can we get an interview with them, and who would be there actually, and who would be asking new questions? But Jared, from what I understand, they're 3-0 now in the round robin portion of this tournament. Certainly a team that maybe needs to get kind of a few more runs, perhaps. But when you've got good pitching, it takes care of a lot of offensive problems you might be having. Because if you're keeping the other team silent at the bat, it bodes well for you. It's a good-looking team, I think. I'm happy to see what they're doing so far.
Yeah, started off the group play 3-0 now. They had started off 2-0 against Italy, then went up against Canada, the 1-0 victory there, and then just I think earlier this morning, late last night, depending on what time zone you're living in, they did defeat Mexico 2-0. They've got Australia's next on the list. It's going to be Tokyo time, 10 a.m. tomorrow. So I believe, what is that, 9 p.m. tonight, if my math is correct, with the 13 hours. I think
Sounds
the big one
close.
the big one that you really want to focus on is going to be USA versus Japan. It's listed as on Monday, July 26th, 10 o'clock a.m. local time. So you got to rewind once again, and I guess it's 9 p.m. Sunday night. Japan's ranked number 2 in the world. USA is ranked number 1. The two have really gone
really
back.
good.
It's like they've gone back and forth a lot in recent years. Japan is a well-rounded team, while right now the U.S. has been just relying on the pitching to do all the work. And as we mentioned earlier in this weekend when the article is just having some veteran players for Team USA softball. I think the starting pitchers are 35 and 38 years old, and I mean that's remarkable itself that they're back out there and still just kicking butt.
Amazing to see. Amazing to see indeed. So, as we kind of segue ourselves into the final end of the show here, I do want to end with this kind of question to you in your Olympic viewing. Case, what's your favorite Olympic sport to watch?
Oh gosh.
Kind of threw you under the bus there, but I'll let you start it out.
You did. I've never been one to really sit down and watch all the Olympics. I like to tune in for specific athletes that I'm interested in watching. Keep up with how the medal counts are doing, how the USA team sports are doing. Are we saying summer or winter?
Oh, I'll let you decide on that. I'm being purely objective here.
Well, I guess I would just say that my favorite Olympic sport to watch is soccer because it's my favorite sport to watch when we're talking on a national team perspective. But overall, I'd say probably my favorite sport to watch in the Olympics is the luge and bobsled pairing. I think they're a ton of fun.
Can't it? That can be fun.
Followed closely by speed skating, which is just amazing and terrifying.
Yeah.
And certainly bodes well for our Cardinal couple luge team as well. So,
I don't know that I'd be any good at it, just that I like watching.
Right.
No, we're going to try and qualify for I think it's the Schnitzelberg trials coming up this winter, and see if we can get into that and do well with that with Jared, of course, in case maneuvering things while Jeff and I hang on for dear life in the 4-man bobsled. We'll move it on over. Jeff, your favorite Olympic sport to watch here?
I mean, do you really have to ask me that?
Well, I mean, volleyball might be somewhere up there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Which volleyball? Beach?
Yeah, no, I do. I do love the volleyball, and I actually do prefer watching indoor to the beach. I think it's a much more interesting game and much more intricate. And a lot of fun. So, and I tend to watch the women's more than the men's because it's a little more skills based as opposed to just pure raw athleticism. So, off of those kind of mainstream sports, I'll throw a couple out there that I enjoy watching that are less mainstream, don't get as much attention in the Summer Olympics. Is team handball.
Handball's
very interesting,
right? It's a lot of fun to watch. It's a very high paced game, a lot of
ton of fun to play.
Is that okay? I've never actually played it, but
Yeah.
I'm not nearly in shape enough. But it just is a lot of fun to watch, and it doesn't get nearly the sort of attention that I wish it did. And then in the winter, kind of similar. I think I've been on the record before as saying one of my favorite winter sports to watch is curling. So it's just a very cerebral sport.
It is indeed a lot of fun. A lot of fun to watch curling, and the way that the guy goes down there and cleans the court each time with the broom. It's
Right.
fantastic, right? All right, so we got two difference in here. We'll bring in Jared. I see to see if he's got a tiebreaker here, whether he's got a third one to throw at it. Your favorite sport, Jared?
Well, when it comes to the Olympics, I don't really have a true favorite sports as much as it's just fun watching the different sports, and a lot of these are sports that I don't personally have the opportunity to follow or watch any other time. So that's kind of cool to see. There's been some fun ones over the years. I think last night, a couple nights ago, I was watching some individual and two-person boats for rowing. That was kind of cool. And Katie looked at me like, I didn't know you watched rowing. I do enjoy having the fact that we've got softball here now. In terms of volleyball, I agree with Jeff where I prefer the hard court over the beach volleyball. But I think the one that I'm always going to tune into no matter what is going to be the gymnastics. And just over the years, what we've seen with the Fierce Five in 2012, the Final Five in 2016, and then what we're going to be seeing this year, where gymnastics has actually cut the rosters down to, I believe, 4 members. But still, the fact Team USA is such a heavy favorite, and how much skill and talent and every ounce of muscle you have in your body goes into what you have to do with gymnastics. It's just impressive and remarkable. And if UofL were to ever add on another sport, I would be all in favor of women's gymnastics. I know UK already carries it as well as many of the SEC schools, so that'd be cool if we could get a little UofL UK rivalry in women's gymnastics at some point. But and when it comes to winter sports, I don't follow Winter Olympics as much, unfortunately. But I feel like curling is a lot more relatable, where you'll see it looks like a bunch of guys with the dad bods out there with their mustaches and ball caps drinking beer. And I mean,
Yeah.
that gives me something like I could work towards that and maybe achieve that, because many of these sports, it's just something I could never be able to pull off.
There is a curling club in Louisville that you can join.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bring on that broom. Let's go. I'm ready. Yeah. So Jared weighing in with his man, and I'll just ended up by saying my favorite is basketball. I just love to see our professional basketball, well, not professional, but pretty much professional basketball teams go up against the rest of the world. It amazes me that our USA women's team has still got what I'll call senior citizens out there in Taurasi and Bird that are still doing phenomenal things out on the court. And certainly the drama and the excitement of the men's side to how will we do this year against the world, with certainly a lot of pro players playing for other countries. It's going to be very interesting to see how USA contains themselves against them. Basketball is my favorite, I got to admit it, but basketball is my favorite sport anyway, so that pretty much goes without saying for me. As far as winter events go, an area that I've always liked to watch is the slalom. A very, very fun event to watch. Watching them go down the slalom and do that course, and then the twists and the turns and everything, and all of a sudden, whoops! That guy just knocked himself over. Uh-oh. Fun to watch. I could never ski, but I like to watch other people do it. So how about that? But that is going to kind of get us to the end of another Cardinal Couple broadcast here on our podcasting, and we'll just end it with some quick final thoughts from everybody to kind of catch up with things, and we'll go ahead and let Jared start out with our final thoughts today.
Mine's just going to be, I'm enjoying watching the Olympics, and whether it's on my phone or on the computer on TV, I'm as much Olympics as I can fit in my schedule while I'm watching.
Absolutely so. And I'll kind of jump in here next and say that I do love the Olympics a lot, and I'm actually watching some ping pong right now. Olympic ping pong. Go figure. And going back to my old fraternity days at UofL, if I had played ping pong like this, I never would have been out of beer. Because these are amazing on this short table, and watching what these girls are doing with this ping pong. It's incredible. How do they do this? But final thoughts are, enjoy this time of year because there's many great sports going on, not only Olympic wise, but in other venues too. If you're an athletic fan, certainly you have a variety of things that you can catch up on and learn maybe a little bit more about, like I am right now watching ping pong. Case, we'll go to you. Final thoughts.
Yeah, my final thought. I'm just going to wrap back to softball. If you're a standings watcher type of person, it looks like the USA should be in the catbird seat to make it into the gold medal game. They and Japan are the only two undefeated teams. USA plays Australia, who has already lost 2 games, so they should be able to clean that up, and then their other game would be against Japan, in which case it wouldn't matter if the USA lost to Japan, because that would put them at 1 loss, and then Japan would either have no losses or would have a win against Canada. I guess presumably if Canada manages to beat Japan, which I would call probably unlikely, then they would have to go to a tiebreaker because the three would be tied at the top. But I think that USA would probably own that tiebreaker as well, since they've allowed no runs so far. So yeah, that's where I am. I'm excited to hopefully see the USA bring back gold in softball, since they were the ones that got softball killed.
Absolutely. So we wish the best for our girls out there playing softball on a baseball field, but nevertheless having some fun with it. And certainly we're getting to see some great pitching as well in that. I love that. Last but not least, Jeff, some final thoughts for us here.
Yeah, similarly enjoying having the Olympics back around. I was watching water polo as we were talking for a little while. U.S. women were beating, I think it was Japan. They were playing pretty substantially. I did just switch over to table tennis since Paulie mentioned it, so it's pretty cool. So glad that softball and baseball are back in the Olympics. I'm glad that 3-on-3 basketball is for the first time in the Olympics. That should be just a whole lot of fun to introduce that variant of that sport to a lot of people. So great stuff. And then, we're not that far away from UofL athletics again. So that's pretty exciting.
Certainly a very exciting time of the year, and we'll be hoping to bring you some interviews with some of the coaches and players as we get ready to roll into the fall season. But I do want to thank everybody for joining us on today's edition of the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast. We'll see you back here next week from 11 to 12 plus, usually, with more excitement of the joy and excitement of UofL women's athletics. Unless you know something we don't, we'll see you then. Everybody have a great weekend.